Okay. I need also to set the sound up. My apology. Seems like alert box is non-stop making some noises even though I completely closed it. Okay. Nice. For everyone, hello. My name is Robert Nerk, concept artist for a game development studio uh, in Indy. And for this course, we do the second part of it, which is about taste and different approaches in terms of study. But before we do that, let me summarize what we did in the first class, which is about reference and the different ways how to study. Um, so basically, uh, we in the first class we figured out why we use reference and for what purpose, why we want to understand them, and yeah, many different things. There is also, if you use the command nano like this, you get automatic in the corner nano, and there are all these files to download. The second thing,
Are you supposed to be streaming? Because I don't think you can see if you're doing anything.
oh, absolutely. Okay, thank you. In case if it gets revenge. Oh, I forgot to stream it. My apology. So we have two streams. Let me go back. Um, to summarize this, we did this on the first class, which is why we want to understand it, the different types in terms of anatomy, I mean characters and environments, and even creatures. It doesn't matter. These are the four important things when we want to understand why we use uh, reference and why we want to understand it. Then there's the second part, how to use them by think simple, practice, experiment, and ask a ton of questions. For example, Google ArtStation, Pinterest, and DeviantArt. I just go fast because there's already a video, so don't worry about it. Um, Common beginner mistakes in case if they use too much reference or less or 10%. So yeah, there are a couple of things, a couple more answers to that later on if you guys want to ask them in the chat. Here's the difference between artists with reality, what are the pros and the cons to use them. And so yeah, same thing here. Now about real life reference, in case if you want to study those. And here's the wall if you absolute hate to do that. Now, I think we are done here. Let's summarize a little bit what we did in the course. The first thing what I want to mention is everyone, since he was a small kid, has been developing a taste. So taste makes a really big impact in terms of how to study and how to improve yourself. Because what would you like uh, much more? But before I go much more deeper into what kinds of video games and so on, I'm gonna explain the whole taste thing, how to study based on taste, you know. So let me actually make a new layer. Nice. Is the brush right? Yeah, it's alright. Okay, so how to study based on taste? There are three zones, but you need to keep in mind. And based on that zone, it gets bigger and bigger. So we need to develop a taste. And this taste is actually really small, which is the yellow one. To the comfort zone, which shows the blue one, increases every time if we learn something. So it gets much more into your comfort zone. And basically, imagine you draw for an entire week hands. You're gonna be better at drawing hands. You're much more comfortable than with it to draw hands. And that's what pretty much shows the comfort zone. You have drawn that for ages, for example. And you're every time when you try to draw, you warm yourself up with that. In my case, it's environmental branches, leaves, stones, and other types of varieties what comes into the environment. It could be also buildings, it could be anything. The uncomfort zone is basically showcase the things that you absolute hate or dislike about what you are not comfortable with drawing. It could be erased, but it not erased. It could be slightly smaller, but not erased. To keep both taste and comfort higher, we need to tackle sometimes the uncomfort zone, which is for me, for example, characters. I dislike to draw sci-fi characters, you know, or I dislike to draw spaceships. But in order to improve and make it into my comfort zone, I need taste to overcome that decision, you know. So taste plays an important part in our comfort zone. And if you combine these two together, you're a mad lad, you know. You basically have fun if you combine it with your comfort zone. I'm gonna show you then later a showcase how we're gonna do that, okay? So don't worry about. How approach things based on taste is I ask myself a millions of questions, but I made it a little bit much more smaller in case I don't want to overwhelm myself. So I ask myself, what do I like the most to draw? Can I combine it with my taste? Which is, for example, in strategy games like Command and Conquer, where the characters are really nice, or which is, for example, leaves or other type of stuff, as I said. The third thing, what is the most hateful thing to draw? For me, it's actually cars and creatures. And a few buildings. Or things that I need to learn again, you know, over and over. Now we go to the second part. What defines our taste? Or how can we understand the taste when it comes to that? I love cyberpunk stuff. Really, really much. Even though I am much more into fantasy. But this is my taste. I hated to draw, but I absolutely love to play video games and watch movies about it. I was always fascinated about the function of this world. For example, this huge aircraft thing going on, flying cars, as you probably can see here, uh, different types of lights. It's all that insane thing that drives me absolutely nuts in a positive way, which is just incredible. It's crazy. And that's what taste brings you forward if you play video games. Play video games. Or like certain stuff like knights or armors. For example, I absolutely, as I said, love cyberpunk stuff. So you need to ask yourself, what's your taste? But do you like mostly to play what kind of video game? What is the theme? Why do you like the theme so much? And if you resolve those questions, you can actually combine that with your comfort zone, which is basically if I draw a tree, but the theme is cyberpunk, I can basically draw this tree uh, like a hologram, you know? I would absolutely love that. Or maybe we put on the trees some weapons or other stuff. This could increase, I think, vastly in terms of taste and in terms of comfort, your uncomfort zone. And it increases vastly your uncomfort zone. There's another way why, for example, why you love drawing knights. Why not drawing a knight in Cyberpunk, for example? How does that look like? Is it made out of latex with armor stuff into it, or that's the amazing thing about taste. It can create this vastly motivated and inspirational thing all around you. The things that you played, the things that you did in school or a conversation. This is um, this was not a waste of time. You think back and remember the good old times, and based on that, you take something from it. That's what taste does, in my opinion. Another thing to develop taste is making the uncomfort zone much more comfortable, which goes to that. And in combination of this, it's going to taste. But how we improve taste? Uh, there's no, I think, at least in my opinion, there is no better solution as to experiment what you like. But not only experiment with it, patiently experiment with it. Take your time. Because time equals a effort. The more time you spend on a picture, and it doesn't matter, you can paint it, for example, for two entire days, and then in the next week you start again with 2 days, or in the next week you start with 5 hours or something, and you experiment even more. The purpose of this is basically if you uh, with the experiment part is, as I said, um, being comfortable around it. And if you draw that picture, the purpose is not to draw a perfect picture, but to actually try something out. It's like learning a new program. And this is how you can develop taste based on the uncomfort zone, by taking your time and experiment with it. Uh, any more questions about taste or other stuff based on taste or comfort zone or uncomfort zone? Yes, we will draw in classes. We absolutely going to draw in class. We're gonna make a pro. Depends what we do, actually. What does VUDS means? What? Swift. I don't know what means. I'm sorry. Yes, you're going to get these notes like in this class. I going to always give them the notes after I'm done with the class. You can find it, as I said, in drawing Nano Corner. So yeah, don't worry about it. You can also join the class in every channel, if I'm honest. You just need to type this, and Me6 does it for you. But anyway, let's move on. What if you are uncertain with what you are uncomfortable with? Well, experiment with it, I think, in my opinion. You don't know until you didn't figure it out. Because, for example, you know what kind of video games you like, uh, but you also know what you're comfortable with it. Are you uncomfortable with drawing anatomy? Are you uncomfortable with drawing even fundamentals? It doesn't matter what it is. If you see yourself into a pro level, you think, okay, I'm comfortable with everything, and then you try it out, and then, oh, I'm completely uncomfortable with it. I don't know how the hands rotates. I don't know the information. I don't know anything about hands. So yeah, if you're uncertain with it, then make a list of things what you need to improve on, and what your comfort zone is. Uh, I actually made an entire list of things yesterday. What types of teams could I draw, or what I'm comfortable with? And this took me about an hour, 1 hour, to actually prepare for you guys yesterday. I can actually spend much more on it because I kind of got a couple of those things. Yes, you can have that. Uh, if you guys want, I'm gonna post that too after I'm done with that list. Because later on, if I go here, and if, for example, I want to draw vehicles, motorcycles, I'm absolutely uncomfortable with it. This is now red. This is the first focus what I'm going to draw. Many times I'm going to uh, seek out the information, research it, and then draw it. Figure all the stuff out, the function stuff out, what is really important, and then draw maybe 4 to 5 pages of it. And after I'm done, refine it. Then I go here and set it up to green, which is done. And then the next one came. Maybe I can put it into a random name generator and he generates for me which one I should draw next, which is also fine. So, but I think we should. Is it this one? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, let me go now to painting studies. Painting studies, I think not that many people do that, even though it's a little bit important because you can learn three things in that. You can learn light, you can learn colors, and you can learn the basic things how he built those things up, basically. At least these are the three most important things when it comes how to study a painting. You know, you you basically break it at first down. Uh, your purpose is to study an approach in a picture or the thing that you see to remember yourself. This is one thing how to increase your visual library, but in the same time to increase your visual skill set. Um, take a, but come with the purpose of understanding why are you studying those references, you know? It could be an old master because I always loved the way how um, old masters approach their paintings. So I need to learn my own way how to approach it in a study. So this is what I did on Thursday, and this is the reference what I used. It took me here for about 1 hour and 30 minutes, about an hour. I just tried straight up to paint and tried to focus on the colors first, and then later on fixing the forms, and then simplify it. But first, don't forget it, break it down. This is one way how to study. As I said, fix one or many other problems like light, color, composition, even the composition part of it, which is one here, and this is the perspective, which fixes a lot of things in terms of composition. When I look at the rule of third and I break it down like this, or I can also study just the hair, for example, just to see how does it work in terms of shapes and how can I approach it. What kind of colors did he use and so on. So yeah, 5 minutes to analyze. Take 5 minutes to analyze things in your way. There are different types of way how to analyze it, because depending what you want to study, for example anatomy, for example light, for example colors, there are different approaches to each one. But yeah, let me go to the next one, right? So the next study is study based on a team. And this is why I created this list in the first place. I actually want a team behind it. How to do master study for the traditional methods. Um, Using different types of brushes, using different types of ways. For example, I make the brush extreme big in Approach, or I draw with this kind of way. Imagine you draw a character based like this. You try to draw it basically, for example, instead of try to paint in details. You can paint in details, absolutely fine, but then it takes a month to study that. You can also have a completely different approach. For example, it doesn't matter as long as you try to figure out everything. Use lasso tool, for example. Delete those away. Change it a little bit, you know? Maybe it's a complete different form. Now it looks like a flower pot. So experiment is the A and O in terms of studying. But now we go much more towards the way how I usually study, and I think about 10 to 5% of all the artists around the world just do that. It's efficient, it's very efficient actually, but it takes a lot of time to do that. It takes you a week or 2 weeks, or maybe a month if you want to draw everything based on team. Uh, but let me go now to this part. Drawing things based on a team. As I said, this I can take one from the list and just straight up study it. With my taste, of course. In terms of visual library, it's an S plus. In terms of notes, if you get a D minus or A plus, it's actually an S plus because you get a lot of information from it, and you need at first to study it based, um, like in, let me say, for example, Monday to Tuesday, so 2 days, I tried to just get information around, write things down, right? Watch some videos about it, and take a lot of reference. And not only from real life, but also from different types of artists. Take, for example, Max. I always wanted to do Max. I never started it, it was last year, and I needed to go at the beginning part of it. How do I study those? What are the functional parts of those? But before I do this study, these functional study parts, or the practice, I need to practice those functions. But at first, I need information about those. Which is, for example, gathering information, which is, we have three different types of Macs. Um, Military, which is hard surface, a lot of hard surface stuff, which you can see here. All this based function, but is completely crazy, all about. Then we have alien types of things, like what Fengzu did here. Or we can make a spaceship based on a animal, which is probably here. It's a little bit organic. Or we can combine it with different types of elements like textures. In textures from animals, for example. It has this corrupted way of a mech then later on. Yeah, and the third thing, which is cyberpunk. There's written cyberpunk here. Oh yeah, cyberpunk or real life, basically. Cyberpunk because of high tech. There are three different techs: low tech. Just to summarize what I figured out, and high tech. And based on the tech, uh, we can go much more further in time. For example, high tech is Star Wars. A great example is Star Wars. And low tech is our tech, which is military. Military. Or if you go out and you see just a car, I would still put it into category of the military because it's low tech. You can also call it low tech. So yeah, and alien tech. which is much more organic. Alien. Just to summarize what I studied, everything. And then after that, if you gathered for entire 2 days the information, you can actually practice in those 2 days what you figured out. Uh, but with the intention of doing 10 or 20% of it. Because 80% of the entire day, in terms of learning, is dedicated to the information, to the reference. The next 4 days or 5 days or 6 days, it's just about practice. And you go back and forward with it. It's actually 50% here, if I think right. So you study the functional parts first. How does it build up? Why is it like that? Where are the joints, Do we have this type of a Mac, where everything, the functional parts. Right now I draw all these functional parts for this Mac. It's like anatomy. Knowing where all these functional parts are, which in anatomy we have actually more. Just for going a little bit off topic. Now we know the functional parts, so in the next 3 days on the weekend, I actually did this. Let me put it up. So I experimented with it. I experimented way more than here, as you can see. I did a lot more. I bought 40 to 50 max, which is really, really incredible. I couldn't believe myself how much things I could put there. For example, I was thinking, what can I put on a Mac? What are the different types of Macs? So I tried, okay, Battle Mac, for example, with a really big type of thing as a commando center. Another type of shenanigans, for example, like this one, which is a hospital, energy thing, energy generator, what maybe makes an entire shield around an army, and maybe a spider camera. So I also combine animals together. This could look like same thing, generator, but this one is much more advanced as this one. Advanced as this one. I'm sorry. Okay, nice. So this is one way how I approached things based on teams. I did everything in 1 week, by the way. So you guys can take much more your time if you have it. For example, 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Could you classify moving castle as a Mac? Yes, you can actually do that because it's moving. It has joints, right? It's a castle that has basically these joints around it, and it moves. As long as it has, for example, I'm gonna categorize, for example, mechs in 3 different teams. Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk. Steampunk. Steampunk has a lot of function. I just write everything down what you can have, where you can have mechs, probably. So cyberpunk, steampunk, and sci-fi. Sci-fi. Maybe in fantasy. For example, a golem. A golem is still like a mech. Even though it's natural, it has the function, the base function of it. How do you know when you are comfortable with the team you are studying, when to move on? That's an interesting question, Kawashi. Uh, it's a little, um, if you want, Travis can actually respond to that. But I can also say that, and I don't know. Um, about the first question, if I know things from imagination, how they work, for example, I know how to draw a map based on the imagination, based on the function I don't need reference, then that's already in comfort, you know? That's already a comfort zone. But if I don't know how to draw, for example, in my imagination, I know for a fact that I need to study that much more. The more you do, the more comfortable you get with a team. And it's up to you to decide when to move on. Because I move every single week on. I set up a team, study it for 2-3 days, then practice those functional parts of it, and then move on with the drawings and refine it then after the last day. Everything in the entire week. And if I didn't succeed at next team, if I didn't succeed at that next team, you need to have non-stop a consistent workflow. Even though you didn't study, but it was your fault. Then after that, I can say to me, it is my fault if I didn't study this or that part for a week. So I need maybe another week. Yeah. I think, does that answer your questions, Kawashi? Glad to help you. So we have a third thing going on now. Now we go to the last part, which I think basically you study when it becomes comfortable. You can rely on your imagination and learn something new. But if you want to draw something new and there is no real reference to learn from it, Reg, uh, I ask you something. Can you draw something from something, or can you draw nothing from something? You cannot draw nothing if there's nothing here, you know? There's always a reference for it. You can even do your own reference. There's an, so basically you study when it becomes comfortable. You can with your imagination move, learn something new. But if you want to draw something new and there is no reference to learn from, as I said, nothing comes from nothing. There's always something. You need to have a certain amount of information, you know? Reg. After you gain this information, you know how to Google it, you know? Different types of mechs or different types of sci-fi, different types of anything else. If it's based on a team, you can always find it. You can always find the reference. There are so many types of ways how to Google it, not only Google it, but also using Pinterest, for example. Pinterest is an amazing thing. And sadly, barely people use that or use it for inspirational. You can also look other artists, it's completely fine. As long as you want one thing from it, you just take 10% from it. About Ross Tran, don't see yourself as Ross Tran, small advice, because he has a lot of experience. But try at least to see a difference between Ross Tran and you, and what do you need in order to be better as him, you know? Instead, seeing yourself as Ross Tran, you can actually learn better than him. I want to be better. I compare my pictures with him, and so on. Any other questions before we go to the last part of it, and then we can paint? Okay, no questions. Nice. So this is the last part, and I think 10. Wait a minute. So someone's drawing. Maybe you guys have a question. Okay, no. Don't worry, we're gonna resolve all of your questions later on. After I paint. Meanwhile, I paint. Okay, the last paint studies. Paint studies, basically, a lot of people do that. 90% of it. Imagine you draw a picture and you don't know where you want to go with it. You take one reference and draw with it. And okay, now you get an idea. I want a Mac, for example. And then, okay, you go towards some problems, and then you get some another reference and paint from it, you know? And then, so basically that is how paint study works, but to make it even much more understandable, paint a picture from the get-go. For example, I draw, and then I have a problem. Now I need some reference, because this is based on imagination sometimes. Because I always do imagination paintings. Then after it, I need a reference. Okay, nice. So this is the ref. Okay. And then, oh, okay, I have another problem with the same picture, you know? I need another ref. Oh, I got another problem here. I need another ref. And so on and so forth. So that's basically how it works. Goes back to study after you face a problem. Instead of learning and understanding the solution, you want to draw the solution first before you identify the problem. Because I don't know sometimes, and let me see this in a perspective of you guys. I don't know what to draw. It's just a character. Okay, just a character. We draw this character. I don't know how it looks like. Right now I just work everything with anatomy. So I try at least to figure some parts out. Maybe I draw some crazy horror film. I don't know how it works. Now we face a problem. Now I need to go back to inspiration. So I want to inspire myself, characters. I want some knights to do. Okay. I know for a fact that's a knight. It looks like, for me, a knight or whatsoever. Based on my taste, okay. Uh, I love this or I love this pose. Okay, I can use that pose. That fixes the solution. At least for my pose. And now this part. That fixes probably the armor. I really love that type of armor. Let's actually try that. How does it look like? Okay. So it has basically this and something here. Nice. Same thing here. Has here something and that's it. Nice. I know now how to draw this armor. And we go more forward with it and more forward with it. Maybe I draw here a sword. I don't know because I don't have reference right now. But I figure out the solution. I still going to watch some people or watch real life reference of knights, how to fix that. And that 90% of the people do that. They take reference, try to figure, try exactly uh, to paint based on those reference, which is not wrong, but it's a little bit inefficient because you don't have the information about it. How do you know we are using a good reference? Based on quality. Quality is the first thing, Rack. For example, if I go to Google, that's one thing. But you can pay attention to it. For example, it's just 807 pixel resolution. We can actually change it under setting and advanced search. And here you can make the sizes a little bit larger. So we press on it. Now the resolution is a little bit bigger. Now it's 1500K. And it gets bigger and bigger. So resolution has a big impact towards it, because here, if I edit in ProRef, you can see a lot of it. A lot of the information I can even put it here and break it down, which is incredible. Look at the details of it. He has a fur. At least we know it's a little bit function. Yes. The quality drops a little bit. Okay, if the quality drops, I'm gonna take another one. Okay, this is way too less. This is way too less too. So let's go back again at the settings, advanced search. Let we do let me go with 2K. That's a huge thing. You can see all of it now. All the rust, the light, even this mace, hammer, warhammer type of thing, the helm. So huge resolution has a huge impact for good reference. That's one thing. The second thing is actually if you go with the intention what you want to draw. I want to draw an armored knight, and I know for a fact I need different types of helms. There's not going to be always good reference, but there is going to be always many reference, because go for it, fully crew. You can kill the composition any times if you want to change the character or whatsoever, or the perspective. Don't hesitate to change it. Oh, competition. Okay, now I read it. I was reading composition. Okay. But go for it. uh, but now I think we should decide based on the pro what we should actually do. Okay. How can I save that? Create a pro. Okay. What should I study? Orchestra put share. Let me copy the URL. Nice. First on Twitch and then in the classroom. And I take a 5-minute break. Okay. I really need that. And then after that, you can ask non-stop questions. I hope Jano is helping me a little bit out. And if you want to have a nice discussion about how my approaches is, we can go further on that. Yeah, it's absolutely fine. Don't hesitate. Guys, don't hesitate to use reference from everywhere. It doesn't matter if it's 3D, it doesn't matter if it's 2D, it doesn't matter if it's real life reference. What's matter if your intentions, you know? Because if I work for a company, I don't use 2D reference, for example, because basically by mistake I can only focus on that cool image, you know, and don't get way more cooler images. That's
Yeah,
one thing, for example. How do you know when it's too much reference? Um, that's actually a good question. As I said, can go on and on with it. What I try at least to do is in to resolve all of my solutions in 1 hour, and then I stop with reference. I stop taking reference. If it's completely fine if you use many different types of reference, but only if you try to do thumbnails, you know? And not only, but this is one example. If you do if you have many tree references, you do a ton of thumbnails, you know? This is filled with over 50 trees, you know? For example, this one side of it. That's one of the things uh, that you can not have enough of references if it comes to thumbnail process. But anyway, I'm gonna take a 5 minutes break, and yeah, see you guys.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you put on some elevator music or something.
Okay, I'm back. So, let me look at the prole. Ooh, okay. Seems like people want much more. Let me actually refresh it. Okay, people want more the last thing what I explained. Because 90% of the people in the entire world use this approach. I'm fine with it. On the reference part, to make it much more clear with it, your intent is to study. So use everything. It doesn't matter if it's 2D, it doesn't matter if it's 3D, it doesn't matter if it's real life paintings. It doesn't matter if it's real life reference. Use everything because you want to study. Your intent is to study. Your intent is not to show things off. Okay, I think we go much more further with this type of character. I actually like that one. Let me close this and save it. Now I need a moderator. Which one?
Looks good.
Okay. Do you want to do it, Mil?
What's up?
Do you want
If you
to
need,
moderate a little bit?
I would read all the questions that people have posted in the Discord chat, and I'll try to keep my eyes on the Twitch chat too at the same time.
Oh, okay. Nice, thank you. If you guys want much more something clear from me, don't worry, I can go over it again if you guys are confused a little bit, because it's a lot. It's a lot of things. And that's one of those problems that, yeah. The stream is about 1 hour. So we have 2 hours to spend time on a painting approach. So everything works fine. um, Let me just look at the different part of it. Yeah, let me research. I want to draw definitely a character, a knight, because I already set my intention. It's a knight. So this one looks cool enough. Maybe we can do a crusader or fantasy. How about fantasy? But I need some helms. I like at first the shoulder to do and the other parts of it. Knights. Let's see, I like this one. And normal crusader. This looks beautiful. I also like the way how he line draws it. Is there another fantasy way? I like his sword. Oh, this shows a little bit a difference. Oh, I like the veil or the cape in combination with the helm. By the way, if someone in the chat comes up with, hey, wanna buy something, then tell me that right away.
I thought you saw that already and you just ignored it.
Yeah, I saw that and I banned him immediately.
You should try making some of us moderators for your Twitch. So
Oh
whenever you see
yes.
some stuff like that pop up, you should just get rid of it.
How can I do that actually?
You can do that later. Like let's do it like after the stream.
Yeah, nice. My intent. I like this type of armor. Maybe I do a woman armor, a realistic type of armor. Oh, I like this one. I absolutely adore it. Can I see more of this armor? It's from ArtStation, okay. Where do you lead me, ArtStation? There's actually a ton of things. Oh, nice. Oh, nice. Okay, with that I can walk. With that I can walk so much. And it's in 3D. Nice. But I don't like the skirt. The skirt looks ridiculous on her. But incredible here. So much stuff. So much detail. It's okay, nice. We can definitely work with that. So I want to paint exactly with her. Maybe there are some another reference from my collection, I think. Let's see the collection parts. Something in 3D. Oh yeah, this night. I really love the way how the custom is. It reminded me of this one, which is a little bit sci-fi with medieval armor. And by the way, if you guys want to follow me, I'm fine with that. The whole entire collection, because in case of following, I have some amazing artists here, but I follow. They are all incredible. So in case if you want to take some reference or study them, you can always do that. Link is in the chat room, and another link is here on Twitch. I'm sorry. My apology if I doesn't sound nice. I try my best because it's hard for me to. The difference between those paint draw studies, team study, and painting studies is, and I go again, edit. Is it at reference? One second. It takes some time. My apology. Okay, nice. Oh, this is the wrong one. Again. Sci-fi how to study part 2. This is what I search. Oh my god. It takes some time to elaborate much more your question, guys. Team studies like breaking down a specific element of team, then trying to understand specific objects of the element from what I'm trying to understand. Yes, Juice Varudo is absolutely right. But I'm gonna elaborate it much more, okay? So paint study, you paint, take some reference, and paint again, and try to resolve based on your reference the solution. That's paint study. By team study, you take a team. It could be anything. It could be sci-fi. It could be environment design. It doesn't matter as long as it has a theme into it. And based on a theme, study the information, study the functional part, and then experiment with this based on the theme what you choose. For example, it can be real max or fantasy max, and then but then you need to learn this type of thing. And painting study are much more. You take a picture and analyze it and then paint that picture. That's the difference between those things. Here another example. I built up, for example, my avatar. It looks really, really ugly. But then I tried Ross Runway. Okay, see how he experimented with it. I looked him up. Then I looked other artists up based on presentation. Okay, I can add much more. Changed the colors a little bit. Then I changed it much more into blue. I didn't like it. It was way too much blue, so I changed the colors on the hair green. Okay. Then I looked up to some other types of things. And then in the end, I made it. But yeah, we already have our reference. Is it here on the collection? Yeah. I really love it. The way how it looks. Ooh, it's too big. Come on. I just want to spend 5 minutes on it. Just 5 minutes of reference. I know already I want to add latex with a different kind of a sci-fi vibe a little bit. But in the same time have it much more realistic and medieval. Which could add a completely different approach to it. Okay. Next reference. They're way too big. Which is absolutely fine. Next one. Okay, nice. Oh yeah, by the way, I should write everything down what I want to have on this character. Armor. The latex from the material, of course. Latex. Then metal. Metal armor, of course. Black metal, black steel. Probably it could be black steel. And now the things what I want on her. Okay. A belt. A specific type of weapon. Maybe I try a combination of different swords. A sword. Big heavy armor. Cape. What can I add more? Helm. I can add a helm. Nice. Emblem or sigil. Ornaments. For the hands, I want also armor. Or gloves. Because maybe the upper body is going to be full on armor. And then the lower body not so much. Boots is heavy. Heavy boots. Heavy armor mod boots. The next thing that I can write down is under her body below. Probably some type of cape. We can probably do that, or we go straight up with this one, which is probably like this. As you guys see, I don't know what it is. It looks like leather. Okay, thank you. I don't need that.
Okay, so you have a frequent question by Mealy here. This person still doesn't understand how do you break down shapes. We already have a couple people in the chats helping them out. We have Tavish, who's also someone that's working in industry, and they're giving them pointers on how to break down shapes, but this person's still not getting it. Can you elaborate more on it?
Yeah, I can elaborate more on it. For example, I want the intention of doing a character. So I need to understand what kind of thing I need to break down, you know? And based, we have three things to break down with shapes. Recognition. Actually, wait a minute. The shapes, what are the big shapes? Because we need to break it down in big, medium, and small. What the heck? Again, come on. Different color. Thank you. Big, medium, small. Big, we start with big first, and then we go with medium. I want to understand, for example, this cloth part or this armor type of part. I make it as simple as possible to do to study those shapes, which is I need to recognize it. Recognition. Okay. Recognition is always the A and O. Information, for example, but we don't go that deep. I don't want to go deep, and in the end, it's way too much. So we need to recognize what it is and for what reason, which helps you understand a way more better solution to shapes. We start big because it's about position too. When it comes to shapes, position and perspective. Perspective comes last. So don't worry, guys. Even though I need to break that down too. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it's way more easier like that. I want to break it down with these shapes. They can stretch, for example, the rectangle, I mean the sphere or the ball can stretch, can get bigger. This one can stretch too, or get bigger, or squish in the middle, for example. Let me squish it a little bit. Like this, for example. This one can squish too. Stretch again. So yeah, I try at first the outside to understand. It's a round shape, okay. We have here a round shape. So this is how I can follow this thing. It's round here. But it's a stretch ball. Now here we have a triangle now. Because you need to see everything based on shapes. That's the important part. I think he asked you he said that a lot. But how it is? That's the big problem. It really depends how you do it. I would love to break down the big thing, which is this one, the big, in big, medium, small. This is the big part. Now we do the medium one, which I do in red. And the other one is the small part, which I do in blue, which is probably this nails or whatsoever. What that is, I don't see it much more clear. But here's another part, which is a middle one, which is this type of thing. So there's a big shape around it, but it's up to you. Imagine a box. There are many small boxes. These are middle boxes, and these are much more smaller boxes, you know? You need to break it down like that. Big, medium, small. That's always have been and always be like that. In the same way, with specific shapes, rectangle, triangle, and the ball, or what is it called in 2D? I don't know right now. I kind of forgot it. But yeah, same here. Green, blue part, blue part, blue part, and then the small ones, which are the functional part of it. I know now for a fact that I can draw this type of armor, the shoulders. Do not get confused with it, because I broke it down on the picture. I can draw that now, here. At first the big shapes. I know I can do here a round ball. I can do here a rectangle. Here is a triangle. I can break it now down into a middle shape, maybe much more. This one goes much more in front, and then it switch like that. Again here, break it down to the middle part. Nice. And now the small parts. And now you have your armor. If you want to do it in 3D, you can also do that just by simply adding the back part of it. But how cool it probably look like, or I make it way more easier for me. Just break it like this, like a sphere. Because these shapes, learning in 3D is also a big important part. That's why we learn that in 3D. Because we want to see which direction it goes. How big it is behind and all these other shenanigans. Now you know for a fact that I can do that. Darkest. What's dark? Let me go now back to my picture. I finally understand how it works, everything. I want here a round shape. here it goes like this. Okay, nice. It looks a little bit ridiculous. Or probably it goes like here and then back to it, because I see this part goes down and this one goes up. So if I see that in perspective, we have always this and this part. This is from the reference, but I need it from the other side of it. Let me see it much more from here. Nice. Okay, next one here. Cut it out. Maybe much more smaller. It goes up. Nice. We also paint in big, medium, small, by the way. It's always like that with the intention. There are actually 4, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. With the intention of building it up. We need to always build it up. Don't forget that part. And as I see, okay, the small shape is connected with just these two. It's a little bit much more to the right. But maybe I cannot see it, so it's a little bit fine. Oh, what do I want to do? Okay, emblem, sigil, and so on. Let me do it way more smaller. Because I want it as loose as possible to have. I don't need a direction, I just need the anatomy part of it. Right now I try to do anatomy as good as possible. Nice, and here is, I think, the big armor. And here it goes something down. Here's probably the latex part. A belt. I need a belt. Doesn't matter how it looks like, I can fix it later. Because right now I come with the intention of designing a thing. I know how I can see it, how it looks like. I try to imagine at least how could it look like. Then later on, go much more with it. That's only in the character based, the way how I do it. Usually my intention, if I know about shapes, yeah, it's basically like that. And now we need only to understand shapes and shapes relation towards it. Is it a triangle here? What is it? I want to break it down for the purpose of having an armor here. I want you to break something down for the purpose of having a cape type of stuff here. Now maybe I should add much more hips to that character. Nice, now I can fix some of this anatomy solutions. Anatomy problems, I'm sorry, not solutions. Because maybe she has her feet a little bit much more into the back. Or I'll try a little bit a different pose from the feet part. This is goes back straight up down. Straight up down. Okay, let's change it. Actually would love to do it a little bit different here from the position. I know what I want to do. Let me actually do another one. This time it's about the pose. Because if I always do napkin sketches, and I think it's way more easier for me to actually have it like that. A napkin sketch in terms of poses. Yeah, I think that's way more better. That's this part. And now I zoom out because I want to see the whole entire picture. Even though I saw it already, but I need much more. It's way more easier to draw like this. And you can also see how big the body is. The height of it, for example, too. Nice. Okay, next. I can finally add some more stuff to her. I know for a fact that there's going to be a belt. Okay, what is that? Okay, there are rings attached and all this other stuff, so I want also here this short skirt to add with the belt, but I want a different type of design for the armor. I actually like this one way more. Break it down. Break it down, come on. What is that? How does it work? Okay, rectangle. Here, triangle, and another one. Okay. How about the other part? This is big. Okay. The holes are medium, and this is small. By the way, who asked the question about how to break it down? Right now, I don't know. It's completely fine. I just wanted to ask.
It was Caesar Zoom. At first he said Millie, but Millie was just repeating his question, and he
Mm-hmm.
kept on trying to get. But it was Caesar.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe like this. Experiment with it. Don't, but at least decide in 30 seconds what you want to do. Don't do it like me right now. But I try a combination between this one and this one. I really like the way how it's shaped. So it's completely fine. At least in my opinion. Then we need also to change the perspective on this pose. I like the way how her armor looks. But this time this is latex. It doesn't matter how I draw it. It's just for the sheer purpose of trying to see at least a character into that. I actually drew the foot in the wrong direction, wrong position. What the hell is wrong with me? Okay, nice. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. This should resolve it. I'm not that kind of a character artist. I'm much more into environment. But yeah, maybe I chose the wrong team. Knights are really complicated to draw sometimes.
You wanted to push yourself.
Absolutely. That's one of those reasons why I try to get as much out of my comfort zone. But you see what now? Because I love knights. It's my taste, as I said, and taste plays a really important part. I like those boots. Maybe I break the foot again down. Maybe I change it. I change the direction from here. This could work. But then it's about here. So maybe the foot. I mean the knees are here. But yeah, now we know how a character looks like. We know this part of it, at least this part of it and this part of it, based on our taste and on the pose. we can make everything really crazy. It's a really big experiment, so don't be scary to zoom out. It's just about studying all of those elements now. We know how to draw it yet. Now our problem is to fix it. So how we're going to fix the feet? That's one thing. I think we're gonna set the opacity down and sketch it again. I also didn't figure out how all these helm parts are working, but at least I know the shoulder. The shoulder
Dr.
here.
Q has a question. He says, I might have missed this because I came in late, but in regards to artists, is it more important to study certain aspects of the drawing that can be applied elsewhere, such as shapes, or can any part of a drawing be applied to your own work?
It can any drawing be applied to your own work? That's my answer. Because um, I can use environments for characters because they have a certain shape, you know. Let me look at, for example, at trees, okay? Just straight up trees. Trees, branches, okay? I'm telling you this because it's in terms of what it's not about what you have in your reference, it's actually also what you see. Because shapes, poses, and gestures are everywhere. The way how you apply to it based on your reference, it's up to you and based on your imagination, of course. For example, this tree. How can this help me to transition to a character, you know? By basically following all of this stuff. And what is it? Is this the head? Is here the head, you know? And you see what he does. This is his arms. And then we have a character, right? We can also see it completely different. We can see the whole entire thing as a character. I'm gonna draw a gesture based on this guy. This is at least how I see this branch. And as I said, based on one character. And maybe he has a spear and here is someone. That's why the shadow. You see pretty clear where the gesture is, right? It's so an amazing thing. To see gestures everywhere, you need really to learn. Even ideas. I can combine ideas based on different pictures. And my full intention is to do characters too. That's one way how to do that. Same for environment. Right now, let me try a rock, okay? Or some leaves or whatever. This could look like some really weird plant, you know? But what if my intention is to invert it towards a character? How does that character look like? If I see a head here, or do I see a head here, you know? Then it's a creature, probably. And it has these arms everywhere, like a monster. That's one way to look at shapes. But it's my taste, I think, and a different approach how to see things in your reference and how to use them and how to study them. Then you can go full on swamp textures and all this other type of stuff. Actually, what should I draw? Should I draw a beast like this? Yeah, probably. Or maybe a snake. A snake type of a head. But with the intention of being a complete crazy creature. Here's the other part. I think I finally have it. Okay, nice. A little bit of a zoom out. Maybe I put a beard on it and so on. We can always go like this. And then with the intention of, okay, now I need to study creatures. Now I need to draw this to fix all these order solutions. But now we should go back to our study, to our drawing. I really like this armor, I should put it here. And I want actually to draw different types of shoulder in it. This is gonna take a while to draw her, you know, because you need to study all those things and you use non-stop reference. It's, as I said, it's just it's 90% of all the artists, and I really ask myself why they force themselves to do that. It's okay, it's fine, but it's not my way of approaching this type of things. Yeah, and that's about it. Okay, nice. I can finally add it on top of her. I actually combine it with this one. Get back. Thank you. It's time to add. Okay, it's erased everything. I need to take it away. Now again, this time I use the latex armor as a shoulder. My intention is just to study shoulders. Or if you want, you can study everything else based on light drawing or painting. There are different types of painting approach, of course. Same comes to drawing. But keep in mind, information is A and O. I actually try myself not to look up the information and try based what you guys do. But in a much more easier way, I try to simply break it down. But I don't need, at least for me, to break it down like this, because I see those shapes. I see the intention behind it. I know what it is. It's a heavy plate armor girl knight with latex, and she has a rapier. If you have more questions, and it doesn't matter if it's outside the knowledge or the lesson, you can still ask them, as I said. The importance of it to resolve your guys' problem and not create ones. I really love this armor, so we keep it. But let me make her a little bit smaller. With actual helm. Okay, nice. Dr. Q. You said you focus on shoulder right now. How large should the scope of your study be? Or does it depend? I get frequently overwhelmed by the scope of my study. It depends. You want one thing to learn from it. You can paint the entire picture, yes, of course. Or you can draw everything. Based on the studies, what you learned. I try to break it down, the reference first, which is one way to do it, and then paint over it, and then draw over it, you know? That's one way how to do it. Another way how to use it, this reference, is basically only drawing over it with the intention of, okay, looking at her pose, looking at the light, and then you can also take only 10% from it. 10% which is only this part, or the textures, the materials, the lights. It's up to you to decide too. So yeah, it really depends how large you want to set it up, your scope, when it comes towards learning and studying stuff. Because you can make non-stop different types of shoulder plates with the intention, but with the intention to add it into a video game, you know, which could be really nice. Which is also my taste in the same time. I'm absolutely uncomfortable with ornaments, so let's try ornaments because I needed to put them on her. And to make it much more comfortable, I actually changed the background into something much more paper-like. Maybe I also change the colors.
Fully Q also asked, what about running into issues about involving decision making on how you approach something, like getting over the fear of taking the wrong step process wise?
Or what about running into issues involving the decision making?
Yeah, like the fear of taking the wrong step process wise.
First thing is your intention, you know? Uh, you should not have fear when it comes to studying because it's going to be always wrong. You try to understand that you are a student, you are not a master at it. Even myself, I see myself as a student every single time if I try to approach a study. It's it's up to you. You need to change your mindset towards those things that you understand. You know, you need to do that. You know, you are a beginner at this certain thing. You know that, for example, I try to see it with joy. You know, for example, I really going to love after that to paint something really amazing with that armor, you know? Or make a scene or at least put it in somewhere. That's the whole nice thing about it. So think big brain. That's that's the thing. Changing non-stop your mindset is one of the joyful things that you can have in life. Sometimes you don't appreciate what the people do, but then you look back, actually, wait a minute, he's actually right. And that's happened without, and sometimes that happens without your intention. It's your mindset that changes nonstop. Now you need your mindset and your perspective to change it in terms of studying it. Don't forget, it's a study. It takes a day or a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or five. It's up to you, Holno. Just take your time. You know your problems. You understand it. Now it's time to fix them. Draw more different types of shoulders. Draw more different types of hands. Armor. When it comes to that, you know, that's one thing how you can see those things. I can immediately go and say I hate it so much, but I want to have fun with it. I try to experiment at least. What if I push it? What if I change completely the shape towards it? What if I combine it? You never experimented with it, and I think that's one of the big problems that uh, people try to tackle. That they have the fear of changing something, the fear of using reference, the fear of understanding, the fear of um, hesitating using other types of reference, the fear of using 2D, 3D, real life reference. There are so many fears. Why we do that? Why we have so much fear? I think, without any hesitation, I should use everything from my assets. It's just a study. That's my only perspective in mind. It's just a study. And it should always be a study. Usually. Then I go with the intention of painting a picture for someone else. then of course I need to think about those things. I need to experiment much more. It's absolutely clear that it takes me more than a day to draw this type of character uh, if I want a realistic approach or a cartoon approach, because I never did cartoon, for example, and I need to learn that from a different artist, you know. It's always these things, for example, experimenting with just the silhouette, you know. That's another amazing thing, but you can add.
Zip Snaps ask if you'll be able to share any reference folders on Discord.
Yeah, I can share any, um, not my folder, not my private folders, because the reason is I have way too many resources that I bought and paid for it, you know. But you can have always my Pinterest. It's free for everyone, and there are a ton of things. In case if I
Yeah, it's
want to,
really good.
in case if I want to study characters, you see gestures, you see different kind of belts, feet, uh, not feet, boots, much more, much more boots. Yeah, this type of thing. It's really amazing. So yeah, um, there are a couple of artists that I actually recommend. Um, the reference library. For example, Timothy has an amazing library in terms of medieval I think also sci-fi things. No, it's basically medieval historian things. Do you keep saved reference folders? If so, would it not too much trouble sharing them in the Discord?
Yeah, that was a question I asked you. But
Okay.
the advice is just check out the Pinterest. Pinterest is very well
Yeah.
organized, and there's a lot of categories in there that you can really pull a lot of stuff from.
Yeah, I can't. It's not because uh,
Everything's all
I
4K.
yeah paid, and that's the problem. That's a really big problem. If it would be my photos, then of course. But today's standard, I cannot go out. I have a ton of reference about flowers and other types of things in terms of real life reference in my uh, smartphone. So yeah, it's always nice to have those kind of things, because when I go out on the bar, I want also to paint and draw and try just at least to feel comfortable around it, you know. So it's also a nice thing to have your phone around you and just just take a photo from everything. It could be a car, it could be everything. Increase your visual library as much as possible. I think this is one of the important steps. I always forget the compositional part of characters. I should stop and focus on that one. Yeah. Next question, if you want to ask. silhouettes. Not a silhouette. Maybe I can draw it. I find that often I leave a big part of the design process up to a chance, characters react, etc., and very little is planned out. In your experience, how do we appropriate balance the design between planning and happy accidents? Uh, that's a really interesting question, which right now I have no the answer for it, because how I do it, how I balance things out is actually sometimes I know the information, I see it right on my screen. As example, I know all my visual library and happy accidents. Sometimes it can be happy accidents, sometimes it cannot be happy accidents, based on what I know. But then I want to go back, and then this happens. I close everything. I know my intentions. Let me put it somewhere here. I know my intentions now. I want to draw knights. Now I try to experiment and make a happy accident out of it, you know? It could work. Or it could change everything. Depends on the bad and good things. Does that answer your question? Because you can take these things out, think at nothing, take a break, and experiment much more with it. This is how you achieve the balance, you know, between that. Because sometimes you can study with 30 minutes with that, close it, then study at your own. Let's see how you draw from your imagination. Let's see how you draw in different kind of things. How often do you get back to study subjects? How often do you repeat themes and subjects so you don't forget what you have learned? Not very often, because of information. Since last year, I do team studies instead of painting, drawing studies. This is basically you try to learn something based on what you paint, based on what you draw with reference. I don't do that anymore, at least not so much. What I do is figure the material out, study the material, study, for example, the team, research much more, and so on. We do this kind of things non-stop in the school. We watch our teacher, how he does it, where he knows it, for what reason. We write it down, what he knows. And we try to read about it. These are those three things that everyone forgets. That's one of those reasons why I study team-wise, because then everything that I write down and read again from my book, because I write literally down the information from my book and I can actually show it to you guys. I don't know if I have on Streamlabs something, but I can show that. I hope it works. My apology. Browser, where is it? Game capture, media capture, display, image, video capture. Is it video capture device? Probably. Webcam, yeah. Okay. So basically, I have this type of book. You can see it on Twitch, I'm sorry. Or can I change my screen here? I stopped streaming for a second, okay. Hello? You guys can see that?
You can see it on your Twitch.
Okay, because here I have a ton of information, my IPs and other type of stuff, what I write down when it comes even to my painting process. In case if I forget something, how to paint, because I want all the time to experiment, and then I write those approaches down. It helps me much more um, to actually how is it called? To remember things. Yeah, one of those information when it comes if I study environment. For example, I tried much more in terms of uh, Greece and Roman, and I didn't know there are three different types of things, which is three different types of architecture, which is um, Doric in Greece, Ionic, and Corinthian. These are the three different types when it comes to buildings, for example. And also small information, side information, Doric style. South Italy, very simple, straight, not so tall, like the Pantheon. I even gave some examples in case if I want to Google them again. And I know I know for a fact how the Pantheon looks like or could look like. In my brain, I have all of those information down, which is really, really nice to have. So, having a book full of notes, this is your Bible, based on if I study with teams. This is an amazing Bible, but could help you even after 5, even after 10, even after 50 years. It doesn't mean it always helps you. Why? Because you remember then stuff again. Because if you repeat it a little bit, it makes like this clap, a snip with your finger. That's how everyone's reaction is right now, based on the information what you write on when it comes to team study. And that's an amazing thing about that. I encourage you to do this, guys. I really encourage you guys to study team-wise, because this here you sometimes don't know, but you try to study. Photoshop broke down. Oh, it was Spotify. I think of personal beauty, a literary roadmap of knowledge and art education roads. Love those things. Yeah. Important. Write things down. Even write things down, meanwhile, what your intentions are. We always try. Um, you guys always go right into the picture. But it's also important to take a step back and try to understand what you actually want to draw. I want to draw a character. A jester, for example. I want to draw a jester. I want a dance partner type of jester. Or I want, for example, I know I want a wolf. I draw this incredibly nice little wolf. Like this. I don't know right now, I don't have it from reference, but every single time you can have those reference. always use reference. Right now I try to do it from imagination, just to illustrate my point, that go with the intention of knowing what you draw instead of draw from the get-go. Sometimes it's okay, it's absolutely fine, but at least think before you start the drawing. At least try to understand what you're doing and how does it serve you? How does it help your process out, you know? Maybe I can make the head bigger. Okay, we should go again with this character back. I try right now to draw the front part so that we do the front part. Right now I'm a little bit much more wound up, so it actually works. Maybe I can do variations about it. I don't need really one character to do it. It's absolutely fine. You can do more than one. It's up to you if you just want to do it, Go with the intention of learning something from it, rather than painting blindless. I always try at least to add something completely new into my picture instead of drawing the same thing over and over again, because we are people and our attention span is about 5 to 10 seconds, or maybe much more less. So imagine that if you paint the same picture and again, because this could happen, and it could also be boring, but it's acceptance. But you need to understand. You need to accept the fact that many things what you are going to draw is based on repeating stuff. You repeat those types of stuff non-stop, which is absolutely fine. It's okay to repeat, so don't worry about it. You cannot invent metal again, and you cannot invent people, but at least you can morph it or change those people based on your taste, based on your needs, based on how you want to do those things, It's actually much more comfortable to draw on paper. Let's draw a little bit gesterize here. Counterbalance. Maybe this could help the character to breathe. I think we should stop with the lesson, or do you want to draw? Because the only thing what I can draw is and study is this character. We can study it non-stop until for another hour. But yeah, I can even study the approach how to paint things, which is just taking a bigger brush and paint like I draw. You know, that's the whole thing about it. Add then the texture on it with the latex part of it. Let's see if this works. Because as I said, I want latex. Airbrush. I need some airbrush. Or maybe I can draw it without the intention of using an airbrush. Looks neat. Now I want the armor on top of it. Maybe here's something. Add much more stuff. What could probably help this character to breathe a little bit. I really like the pose now. And probably I can add it like that. And I need some counterbalance because this character goes down here. The feet a little bit higher. It's way too big, this one. Let's draw it again. I know for at least I want to have it like this. I can also even study anatomy, so let's do that. Let's study the anatomy part. Or it's not anymore necessary. Because sometimes 5 minutes is enough, or just one stroke is enough to fix a couple of mistakes. I don't want all the muscle the body muscle to have. Let's change that. But yeah, now I can write down on my list different types of poses. Gesture, feet, knees. This is the thing what I need to study now. Yes, there's a theme going on. What should I do now? Okay, the armor. I don't want to study the different metallic parts, but later on probably. After I color pick. At least I know it's a bluish tone. Much more towards white. Let's actually change that into texture brush because I love to experiment. And I love different approaches. So it's absolute easy for, not easy. It's absolutely okay for you guys to change everything. You don't need to stick with the whole the one brush where you paint it for like 20 years or 5 years or entire day. Even block one experiment. That's all what I think is being asked. And I think from here on I put the belt. Maybe this character is a little bit too much from the torso. Not torso, here. I see that right now. Maybe I can change this. To make it way more believable. This one can stay like this. I maybe want something white like this knight here. That's one of the reasons why I chose this kind of character. So a white cloth like this could be really nice. If I don't know how to do gestures, I just go back and try to relearn it again, and then I have a better approach in drawing this character. Or maybe figure drawing. I have then a better approach in doing the figure of this character. Or the pose or whatsoever, as long as I can push it much more forward. And from an illustration perspective, I can take my time, as I said. It doesn't matter. What's matter is as long as I can learn something from it, and as long as I can learn with taste, I feel much more comfortable about it. Maybe we add something here. And then another belt. I make it black. And then white over it. Because I want to have something around it. You know, like line drawing. My approach towards this character is that this is basically for the blades, the holster, for the sword, and other type of things. Then I can add later on, I think, much more here. Here's some things. And maybe I can actually add much more here. Another belt. It emphasizes a lot that this is a cape or something for knights. But I don't want to add a red cross. Maybe something else. Let's change the outline. It goes down, goes up, goes down. And probably here something really, really big. Always remember, what purpose is that? Do I want to portray something like the Knight's Order? Or how is it called? Not Knight's Order. I don't know right now. I'm sorry, my apology. Right now the whole entire thing what's going on here is just about a showcase how I study based on what you guys suggested for me with a prole. It looks much more like pastel drawings. Okay, next one. I forgot the pens. Oh yeah, it's latex. Why should I draw more? Maybe I can draw something else. Instead of latex boots. The boots, how do they look like? I've completely forgot it. Let's go back. Can this technique used for study be used for planning, like planning out illustrative piece in mind? Yes, because you can always build it up on top. You can always use a new layer, and I encourage you guys to do that and draw over it, for example, these ornaments, or add another shape to it, like this. You can always draw on top, and then use something golden to describe it. Maybe other shapes, other forms, ornaments. And yeah, that's the whole thing about it. You can draw, you can paint. It doesn't matter. Don't hesitate in those things. Because the more you hesitate not doing those things, the more likely is it that your skill set, you lose it a little bit. You use the way how you used to draw, which makes it uncomfortable, and then you need to force yourself to go back to your comfort zone all the time. So that's why I always try at least to experiment and study and use different types of techniques. It doesn't matter. Okay, I think I'm about to get done here. Now the back side of it. How does the back look like? Don't worry, I can paint every single time. I can paint it away. Nice. Same thing here. Back. Nice. Now it's time to redraw this again. I actually would love to have it much more here. Here emphasis, triangle and rectangle. At first the shapes, and then after that, at first the big shapes, and then after that the rest of it. It's completely fine if you draw it with texture brushes or other type of things, as long as you understand what's going on. And I can even put it on black and white to see if everything works out. Because I wanted this a bright value to be, and this a much more black, darker one, and this now much more white, maybe one part of it, and maybe this one white. So it's kind of goes here white, here, and down there, which makes a really nice compositional thing. But now it's time for latex. I would suggest you guys to learn as many techniques as possible. Experiment with your own brushes even. Have you tried airbrushing the same time to use to erase it and then add again? Let's see what kind of shape it is. You can have different types of approach when it comes to that. But at least I know I take this as a reference from the cape in front. But my imagination says something, okay, I want to add something else into that later on. So maybe I approach it with different types of shapes. At least for now. And never paint small. I simply refuse to paint small because it takes much more time to gain a happy accident out of it. But you can have different approaches, as I said. Nothing is muscled in a stone. This is a little bit too much. 1, 2. Her feet are a little bit too big. We need to change that. And now I need a 5-minute break because I studied way too long. Every single time when you study 30 every 30 minutes you should at least take a 5 minutes break from it. It's important. It refreshes your mind a little bit and also changes a few things in your brain, of course. And yeah, I think 5 minutes break. 5. So,
Welcome back.
thank you. As I said, my intention is not to paint a picture. It's much more to paint a picture, but study in terms of painting a picture, if that makes sense. And then later on, I can erase all the other parts of it. I can even experiment much more. I can uh, make the shapes far more bigger to create happy accidents all over. For example, I can take this kind of character and copy it. I think 5 or 6 times to make variations out of it for the armor. This is how I experiment in terms if it comes to characters, for example. Making variations of it, it's really nice. Maybe I can change this armor plate. Right now my intention is far from making it nice. But adding shapes, different types of shapes, how to make it cool could probably lead into different directions. Then later on I can experiment much more with the belt part of it to add much more. Maybe gauntlet, another type of stuff, which is really really nice. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to ask me that. Yes, absolutely juice. I tried to experiment, but then later on I chose the best one and make it nice. Same goes for environment. Let me save that. Because I want to study armor much more on females or males. Character study. Let me change it into German. Study, character study, or 2, or 1. Variations and approach. I have it no save. Nice. Even environment. I can take one picture or 10% of this picture and paint it again. It doesn't matter. How does it look out without? Oh, nice. Copy it. Make it way more down. Copy it. And you see, I don't zoom in. Maybe I change the perspective around it. Maybe I change all that other stuff. But this is, for example, Chinese. So I can change here the perspective or the compositional part and make this one way more emphasis. I emphasize this way more. Let's make this bigger. Merge the layers. Who cares? Maybe I make it bigger. Maybe I make a road here with this kind of color. It changes a lot. It gives you much more experimental ways. You can experiment much more with it. You don't need to stick into one picture. You can stick later on one picture and decide later on what you want actually to do. Because if your brain is blocked, then try to experiment with it. Because sometimes this helps you much more instead of drawing a nice painting. You know? And maybe the painting what you do or the drawing what you do comes up way more better as your intentions are if you make variations out of it, of course. For example, I can add podests here. Or maybe a snake dragon or something like that. Next picture. I actually wanted just a little bit to experiment with it. Let's look at the minutes. I have only 10 minutes. And then I need to call it off. But yeah. It's my taste. I love Chinese stuff too now. But they need to be comfortable with that taste and yeah. And make the uncomfortable comfortable. If you have any questions now, this your last chance. Then we're about to end the stream. I think it's absolutely fine the way how it looks. Maybe I can change it here. Absolutely, make it completely different. Copy it, make it smaller. The perspective is now way more down, way more down. And it actually could look like a complete different picture now. Come on. My apology. It changes a lot, right? The way how things the things are now approached here. Maybe we add this ancient temple here now. So we did about 4 variations and 3 of them needs to be only painted. This is a really huge difference, as you guys can see. And only I drew about 5 minutes or 10 minutes up to all to those things. It's absolutely fine spending time on a study. If your intentions are to study fast, to understand certain things, then keep a time on it. 30 minutes up to 1 hour. I usually have all the timers. Timer. Timer. And based on time, I set up 10 minutes up to 1 hour. So yeah. My suggestion is to add a timer. It's absolutely important. Because you can set up even your own mindset around it. Say, for example, hey, I want to draw all of those variations in under 5 minutes. So you have 8 variations or 10 variations. And then you draw under 5 minutes all of those things. You try to imagine things here. Instead of trying, not only imagine, experimenting things. Instead of trying to fixing a problem. Problems are later on. I can even set up things beforehand. As I said, you guys don't need um, immediately to draw. You can immediately set things up on the get-go. Just your brain, the way how it reacts. I just took one simple thing, this object, that shows basically the entry of a temple, and added in a different way. Rearranged it. What's happened if I put it different? Same with the armor, same with the characters, you know? But yeah, I think we are about to end the stream and the lesson and the class. It was nice with you guys, and I hope you guys learned a lot. My apology if it was sometimes boring, you know, but I think you guys get the hang of it.
It's all good.
Hmm?
So it's all good. It was a great detailed lesson.
No problem. I really appreciate, guys. Now it's time to end the stream on Twitch.